Alright, and with that, I think we can begin. So, welcome one and all to the Opus Magnum Weeklies 2022 stream. This is for Lustrous Syrup. This is the 9th puzzle of the year. This one was co-authored by both Haxton and me. So, I guess the story is that Haxton came to me at the very beginning of his conceptual tinkering, and he was trying to design. So this puzzle was designed for cost first, and he wanted me to make help make the original idea was to make a sum puzzle with like more regents than you need, and the interesting choice would be to which regents should you use between the useful ones. I think the idea originally came from Biggie's production tournament puzzle. It was called Overwhelming or something.
Yeah. Overloaded. I had the exact thought. This is probably overloaded in free space.
Yeah, that was the original idea, because we thought, the regent choice would be, we could use the overloaded idea for some, because, with some you don't necessarily want to use all the regents. You want to use the best regents, but well, it turned out using all the regents was a decent option anyway for some. So this puzzle was not in fact overloaded. And then we tinkered with the regents, tried to make the choice between regents interesting. And at the very end, we kind of noticed that this was a very non-trivial cost puzzle. And Haxton was like, should we playtest this? Or whatever, see if it actually, see what actually happens, and I'm just like, nah, it looks hard, the cost mains will enjoy it. If it's not hard, they'll call it not dubious. Screw them, they'll enjoy it. And, I think I was right.
I thought it was freaking hard, but also predicted that over 10 people would get min anyway, because this community's gotten hacked lately.
Yeah, this community's gotten insanely good.
I thought it was a nice dubious cost.
Yeah, I just kind of looked at it and went, that looks dubious. That should be interesting. We'll let everyone else find out. So it is in fact the only metric, at least so far, it's the only metric I can think of for this year's Weeklies that was just never play tested. I don't know. Designing cost puzzles can be weird, because it's like, if it's hard, it's probably going to be interesting. Of course, it's not definitely going to be interesting, but yeah, I don't know. It's difficult to make an overwhelmingly difficult cost puzzle, was my logic. Because cost mains are just too bloody good these days. So, since we're speaking of costs, we shall start there. So, skipping over a few sum solves that'll feature later, we start in 16th place at 70G, 839 cycles with Alienate Me. Trustworthy cost. I don't know, that cost is looking pretty sus.
I'd seen Alienate Me mention things in Discord about, if you can go lower than this, it's hard and I don't know how it would be possible. But that pretty much told me they don't have something they think is as low as it goes. So they're going to be unpleasantly surprised, or maybe very pleasantly surprised if their goal is just see what good people have made.
So, yes, to confirm, for those who didn't know, the minimum cost for this puzzle is 60G. So that's what most people ended up aiming for, I think.
So picture this, but you don't get the track. And thus you need to have a single arm with length 1 and can't reach a lot of your stuff.
Yeah, and importantly that means no disposal. So you have to deal with like a waste chain of some sort. And that is part of what makes min cost here dubious. I think the general consensus was that it was dubious.
I think I found it hard, and I'm probably going to be in the slow end of people who got 60. Maybe the slowest. I would not be shocked.
It is kind of interesting these days when you give people like a cost puzzle that's pretty hard, because like everyone will want min costs, because like we're pretty much a community of perfectionists. All right. This is a pretty straightforward introduction to cost. You can see the general idea with projection, and you're gonna have to imagine this without the disposal glyph for 60G. So that's a complication we'll talk about later. But for now, we will move on to in 15th place we have Team J Mountain, which is a new team consisting of Jason and Communist Mountain, coming in at 70G, 466 cycles.
Nice drop.
Almost twice as fast, pretty much. And I'm pretty sure the cycles drop comes from the fact that because you get access to the disposal glyph at 70G, you don't need to worry about which atoms are waste or not. So you can just go ahead and use the silver reagent.
That's true, yeah. The silver's a big difference.
You only have to project once, really, so you're not just, you don't have to worry about like 4 or 5 projections at once. And you can just construct it, and that's where almost most of the cycles are, just the actual construction process.
Another cost principle I'm seeing go into play here is grab the atom you want to do the most with. So for example, you're grabbing the lead Moors by the lead because you were going to put the lead in the disposal before you do anything with the Moors.
Yeah, exactly. But this is pretty good for what it is. I think that how it was working during the week was that Jason thought 70G was min, but then after teaming up with Communist Mountain was like, no, 70G is not going to be min. It's going to be 60, but the thing is 60 is hard. I hope you're not too disheartened by how many people got 60, because 60G will be coming up next, but for what it is, this is quite nice. So thank you for submitting. I hope you had fun with it.
This is amazing. 14 people figured it out.
Yeah, 14 people got 60G. Okay, you guys are a bunch of perfectionists. Funnily enough, I think we had less people miss min this week than in Rolami's puzzle, Ignition Cord, which is kind of mind-boggling to me, because I would have picked this one as the harder one. Although, not by much though, now that I think about it.
I gotta learn what the good way of doing this is, because if mine's not immediately up, it's gonna be up soon, because I think my way was trash.
Okay, so starting at 60G at 3,107 cycles, Brother Mojo. The cycle count nearly kept up with the area count. Oh yeah, before I continue, real quick in the chat, give me a ballpark estimate for what you think the worst area is going to be.
Oh, the worst area? 50,000.
Will it be bad enough to crash my computer? Anyway, we finally got our first projection. And yeah, you can see why the cycle count is going to be so drawn out, because every projection is quite painful here.
It does an entire loop to get everything around, and it suppresses inputs the whole time.
Yeah, because see, it's projected here, but you can't just leave it here because the waste stick and your Quicksilver can't just go back around here. And then we see the beginning as, because the process to actually get the Lustrous syrup Y shape in place is also quite non-trivial here.
Yeah, the fact that you only get half-access bonder, but you're nominally bonding single atoms to your output, does make it pretty hard. So you have to instead either put your output somewhere that's far away, or put a molecule on it and then break off one of the pieces like Mojo's doing.
Alright, I see the highest area guess was 75,000. If it's that high, my computer will just explode trying to load the solution all the way to 6 products. Alright, we'll let this output one more time, because I do think we understand the general principle of this solve.
It's interesting that it has one extra Quicksilver waste that it sticks on after the fact, because like, what else are you going to do with it?
Yeah. So I think it's at this point when it's trying to build the Y shape.
Yeah, it unsuppresses because it can't, and so it just has to make that into waste.
And then yeah, we finally see it here. But yeah. Alright. With that, we shall move on. In 13th place, the cycle count takes a drop to 2,456 cycles with Ebenov.
Fi end it, not fi edit. That's kind of funny. Hey, that's a stick.
That is a stick.
Oh, only briefly a stick.
So, haven't actually got the Lustrous syrup shape just yet.
Oh yeah, Specs just pointed out, this uses a no-access bonder. That was something I talked to Genius about, like, maybe a no-access bonder will work, but it's spending its extra earned access point on input. Why? Why?
Easier to suppress, I guess? Alright, so this is gonna be doing a lot of pre-building. So I guess
it looks like it's making itself some C's, but why are you using C's if you don't have a one atom thing? You don't need C's for a 2-atom thing.
So this is gonna be doing a lot of pre-building, so let's get through all the pre-building.
Glorious stack stick.
I'm all for stack stick, but I cannot see why there are C's in this.
Oh god, my computer's already chugging. We haven't gotten a single product.
Yeah, this wins an award for spending longer before it does anything than mine.
Alright, it took 1,300 cycles and 8,000 area, but we're getting somewhere.
Oh, the C's aren't C's for the purpose of traversing things. They're for getting the little individual atoms.
Oh, the little C to go around the Moors in the lid. Oh.
Wow. Wow.
This is beautiful. I love it.
So not the
Alright,
usual. It's not the usual C strat, but it is a C strat.
Yeah, I think the register stick things are hard because you have to worry about suppression, which means you're dropping it and going and twisting an input a lot of the time. But I didn't find better, so when mine shows up, I'll be doing the same.
Pre-building's tough because, like, I imagine pre-building's really tough to just, like, optimize. Like, yeah, like, getting one working is one thing, but then, like, at what point do you, like, know or think that you've got the best pre-building, or what can you do to the shape of the molecule to make things quicker? Like, that's a real headache.
So what you gotta understand is this is a weekly, so I just take the first one that works. If this is a tournament, I would have been in a lot more pain this week.
Bada bing, bada boom, done.
I think Genius said something of like, if I can stomach opening this, then I might try to take off some cycles.
Alright, so for those playing along at home, this solution did have the worst area count of any scoring solve at 8,954, so that was the answer.
Alright.
We actually got there surprisingly quickly.
Halo Jasper made a good point of like, the slower it is, higher area is more possible, but high area means slow in cycles, so you won't see it at the top.
You say that, but I'll give you a little fun fact when we get towards the top. Because there was a higher area count non-scoring solve that is much quicker than this. Anyway, we shall move on though. We'll get there eventually, but for now, we move on to 12th place. At 60G 2,101 cycles, we have Wooch Push. There must be an easier way to do it.
Another no access bonder.
No access
This person
bonding.
just 5 access points. You don't need that 6th access point. Put Critelli there.
Yeah, Critelli, that would have been a good flex. I think we saw that a couple times. I think it was Arcorite promotion cost, which was fairly dubious, but I remember a couple people flexing with the Critelli placement.
Yeah, I had a 5 access point Arcorite. I'm impressed to how well they were able to assemble this product with no access bonder. The reason I gave up on no access bonder was because the assembly was so difficult that I had to just change my layout to fix it. Oh, this is also a 1T. That's so good.
Nice, 1T.
Hopefully it didn't lose by like fewer than 10 cycles. This is a good solution. I'm happy to see a 1T approach that keeps its waste pretty well organized, and it uses a nice 3-atom intermediate to complete the bond using its no access bonder.
I like the brick that it makes as an intermediate to get the lustrous syrup shape. I think we'll see it kind of soon.
Yeah, the 3 atoms that it's holding, 2 of which
right.
it breaks.
Yeah, we see it now, I think.
The big benefit of no access bonder is it's so easy to keep your Vitae bonded out of the gate.
Definitely.
When I switch, yeah, that is nice.
Alright, and from here, you just gotta flip around your product, and you can pivot, break the bond off, and Robert's your father's brother. Projection's
Bob's
not...
your uncle, but you're Australian, so you see things weird?
No,
yes,
it's
but,
cost, so it takes longer.
Yes, but it's actually a movie reference. If anyone's ever watched Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, it's actually a British thing.
Ah, okay, it's out of my expertise for sure.
Would recommend if anyone is interested. Anyway, this is good though. Moving on to 11th place. At 2009 cycles. So at about 90-ish cycles difference, we have Cuckoo 52. I must say the low area count. It's only like it was under 500.
Is it 6T making an area ball? I guess it's possible to 1T even make an area hexagon. Yeah, these no-access bonders that just get to have their vitae bonded together right out of the gate. I tried. It didn't work for me. I couldn't get the bonds created at the end.
A lot of shuffling here, but yeah, we get the vitae now. So it's a bit of like a natural ball. And I think the low area...
I like this. I like this a lot. This is elegant. It's compact too, given what it's handling.
Sorry. Yeah, I think the low area count comes because the vitae stick only really... It doesn't get that long, and it's mostly pointed downwards.
It's mostly that it doesn't get that long, because it's double wide.
Right, yeah. Yeah, double wide. Yeah, you're right.
And it's efficient enough to reuse vitae from the waste ball instead of needing to grab a new input and then generate another Quicksilver waste.
And it is actually a legit ball.
Holding a ball!
Yeah. Jinyu would be proud.
If we gave Jinyu this puzzle and told him to optimize gold area, he would probably lose 3 days of his life and come back with perfection. But it would just not. I would not wish that upon the poor man.
There'd be like 4 submitters, and like, I don't know, the other 3 submitters would be like either, I don't know, willingly torturing themselves, or like they thought it was fun for some reason, and they'd probably still lose to Jinyu by like hundreds of area. It'd be impressive, but it sounds like the antithesis of the spirit of the Weeklies. Alright, I want to see this ball completed, so I'm going to run this through.
I personally thought this puzzle was harder than Arkwright Promotion, which made me feel like, okay, this is the hardest cost puzzle we've ever been given in the Weeklies. But I might have missed something, because I didn't feel like my solution had everything it needed to have. I wonder if no access bonder persists to the fastest ones, because that seems to be the way to keep your vitae connected.
So yeah, there's the finished ball. Yeah, it just curls up. It's amazing how much area that saves. It doesn't reset properly. Alright. From here we will move into the top 10. So coming in at 1,766 cycles, we do have Team 42.
Top 10! I was impressed that there were still 4 people slower. This one, we called it dubious patience. Genius remarked at some point, like, some of these dubious cost things are so... There's so much effort to just do the thing you know is possible that it's more about patience and less about cost. But yeah, because I don't have a no access bonder, I have to do a lot more steps to get the stick that has only 1 bond needed to get your Quicksilver. So it takes a lot more time, and every 7th one I need a second bonder, it would break later, so this is another one of the perils of pre-building something is like you have to know what you're pre-building is worth it. And when I had to add those extra bonds, I was like, oh, I have to change the program, you say? I have to go find 6 spots and add programming in them?
That's pain.
Somewhere around cycle 900, it starts grabbing the metal
Oh.
so you should just fast forward to there.
900! That's like over half the runtime.
Yeah, exactly. It's so much of the stick building so that I could do the efficient thing I found. There's a GIF that's just the efficient thing and it makes the solve look good. But the stick building is so slow.
Alright, I think we're finally gonna get some. Alright, we're finally gonna get somewhere here. Alright, so you can see the idea. So is it like 1 every 7 Quicksilver has this like extra bond?
Yeah, exactly. There's
You'll leave 2 of them.
Yeah, it's there to make sure that the stick doesn't break when I'm doing the connecting it to the product.
The fact that you have to leave 2 Quicksilver behind seems pretty painful from a cycles perspective.
Oh, it absolutely is, but this is again the weeklies. I finished it, so I'm done. Genius had made a 70 that was our backup, and I wasn't sure if this was even going to work. But I decided I needed to finish it, so I spent like 3 hours one of the days getting all the programming worked and doing a couple of low-hanging optimizations.
And for that, we thank you.
Thank you for collecting a bunch of nerds and making them try this.
But yeah, as mentioned, Haxton wasn't thrilled that we never play tested it, because it's like, you really should, you know, see how painful it is exactly. But then I'm like, we're talking about cost mains here. Like, if I don't make the puzzle hard, they're just gonna straight up claim it's not even dubious.
I think Reb said this wasn't dubious, but that's Reb's. So Reb's impression is that basically everything is possible unless we can prove it's not.
I think Rebix gave this puzzle the dubious blessing. I think they called it sufficiently dubious, which I'm taking as a win.
Oh right, there was a follow-up Discord message. The first one was tentative, not dubious, and then something like, oh wait, I forgot you have to place the output or something.
Alright. Who do we have in our top 3, everyone? For this week?
Jasper and Rebix, and I don't know who's third.
Unless there's a bunch of drops, I'm gonna say I'm feeling pretty good.
Jasper, Rebix, and Mr. Puzzle. Called it.
Alright. In 9th place, Team Not Jasper.
Never mind. I was bad. Okay, Kelly Reeses takes that spot.
That's 1,664 cycles. Alright, so I'm liking the projection so far. It's not too painful.
You mean to tell me you don't have to build the entire projection stick ahead of time? What?
Alright, how does this... Alright, so it builds a dummy Vitae. And it does actually use those 2 extra Quicksilvers, which is nice.
Oh, that is efficient. That prevents it needing to grab the new inputs.
I like that. So yeah, there is a fair amount of shuffling, but there's no wasted Quicksilver, so... Like, you don't have to build the stick longer than is needed. I like this solve. This is good. For what it's
Yeah, I
trying
think
to
that's
do. Sorry.
just like the conceptual phase of how you approach making this output will decide thousands of cycles.
It
And
really
this is a
will.
good concept.
For what it's trying to do, this is really well. This is very nicely programmed.
Genius was asking me if do you think there's a layout where you can just twist the Moors and put the lead onto the projector, and I was like, that sounds like it's going to make the requirement for where your projector is inefficient, but this one makes it look really efficient.
Hmm. It's a good, yeah. It's a good like. It's a thing. It's a thing that's kind of worth looking at, definitely, because to only have to pivot a couple times and you try and get your Vitae and Quicksilver stick working on the projection, like if you can find a nice, natural, elegant way to do that, like you can imagine the cycle saving. So yeah, people are talking about the drops, and we will continue to drop to 1,475 cycles with random guest.
Nicely done, random guest. Even just getting 60 gold, that's nice. Now you're in the top 8.
Back to no access Bonder.
This is the Cortelli I wanted to see.
Yeah, there we go. Critelli flex.
This is just telling me I should have given more stake to no access bonder, because when I couldn't find out a way to assemble the product, I gave up on it. But there's clearly ways to assemble the product because people are doing it.
Alright, so we've got the Vitae on, and it debonds really nicely. We just need to get that Quicksilver on. The input suppression seemed kind of dicey there, but we got the Quicksilver on, and it again debonds very nicely.
Yeah, okay, that's really pretty.
Mmm. And the Quicksilver and the actual projection part is super painless.
Yeah, congrats. This is a very good looking solution.
Mmm.
Yeah, if you can get that no access bonder to work, it saves you so much cycles because you're getting your waste stick built as you're getting the stuff you need.
Super nicely. I noticed ever since rust removal, there's a lot more like there's a lot more like fluency when it comes to the part I'm wanting to highlight is alright. It's this projection part here with this no access bonder, like bond debond like stick register thing to like get like one particular atom off on a chain and have the other chain keep running. I'm noticing like since rust removal, like that's like a thing that a lot more people appear comfortable with doing than what I can remember in the past. Because like, I don't know, I feel like this like a couple of years ago would have been considered super high advanced cost tech.
It still makes intuitive sense, but it is advanced. I wouldn't say that like you would expect a newcomer who doesn't know the community to find it. This is something people have learned because everyone's doing it now.
Yeah, absolutely not. I think it's more of like people who like have been like around the community and have seen tournament like puzzles and have studied them a bit. Like know how to do this a lot like better. Like, I think it's a community-influenced skill. Random guest mentions wasting 2 cycles making it loop. Is that 2 cycles per loop or just 2 cycles? It wouldn't quite have mattered. But it was kind of close, because next up at 1,454 cycles, so 21 faster, is Bambi. Nice. Oh, I like that projection. Naturally balls up.
Ballin'.
Oh, okay. And it'll make another ball. No, it has to move. Alright. Yeah, there's no way this wasn't 6 speed.
Yeah, it's just every time it has to do something, it figures out what that thing is and does it.
It never seems to be too bothered by the ever-changing shape of the molecule. It's kind of like, as long as the shape is broadly convex, then it doesn't matter what that shape is.
That's a good way of putting it, yeah. The ball. This
Whoa.
could be considered kind of forward first. Just do the next thing. Figure out what you need to do.
Oh, the dicey part here, I think it was this part, where it barely got on without a collision. But now it's a very nice ball. Alright, let's see this ball all the way to 6T.
I'm getting Katamari Damacy vibes from this.
There's your final ball. And it's over the Critelli.
Beautiful.
Okay, that just took the Critelli up from like a 7 out of 10 to a 9.5 out of 10. It just immediately executes a track instruction.
Oh wow, that's a good way of breaking it.
That'll do it. That bad boy will not be looping. Alright. That was great though. Moving on to 6th place. Coming in at 1,332 cycles, we have Team Fiesta Land. Why am I going through this for a weekly?
The no access bonder, double access debonder continues.
Okay, so now we got the Lustrous syrup shape. We just need to worry about projection. And that's...
It does the hard part first. Interesting.
Nice.
I guess when you do the hard part first, you're guaranteed to have some structure to bond your waist to.
Also, a little tragic here, because arm 1 you would think might be able to execute a pivot here to get the tin over the projector, but it just can't because of the because of this particular movement here that would collide if the tin was over the projector.
Oh, because the Vitae would be on that other pile. Oof.
Yeah. So that's an unfortunate, that would have cost like 30 odd cycles overall, maybe? It didn't matter though.
It's not clear, because this is doing something like Bambi's, where it's a little different every time.
Right, yeah. So it might not be for every product, but it is for many of them, I think.
Oh wait, no, the waist is linear. It's actually creating a stick with a very specific 8-atom shape. Maybe 7? Yeah, it's gotta be 7.
Right, so if I play this out to like all the way, I think we might start to see some regularity. Yeah. So yeah, we do see like an actual regular shape take hold here. It's a 4 high stick though, so again, not that much area usage, which is my computer thanks you. There we go. So yeah, I like how the projection, the Quicksilver, you grab it from the region and it never needs a re-grab for the projection part, which saves a lot of cycles. And as Biggie mentions, it does the hard part first, and with a bit of clever bricking and molecule reshaping, you get the Lustrous syrup shape without a world of pain, which is quite nice. Okay, with that we will move on to 5th place. Coming in at 60G, 1,192 cycles, we have Calyuresis.
And they predicted right in Twitch chat that they're not top 3, it's dropping too fast.
Couldn't stop the drop this week. So, of all the scoring 60Gs, this one had the smallest, of any 60G that was submitted at all, this had the smallest area.
It reminds me of, I think it was not Jasper's, in how it is creating the Vitae and Quicksilver, but it gets the bends in there.
Yeah, actually, this is quite reminiscent of not Jasper's. But the projection looks different, I think. I think this part here, when it gets the reactive Vitae onto the gold Moors Vitae shape, that happens a lot quicker than in not Jasper's, I think.
Yeah, because it's attaching both of the atoms to the molecule in the same brick instead of the second one coming like several rearrangements later.
Yeah, because I think we describe, I think it describes not Jasper's as like quite intuitive for what it was, and this is like less intuitive, but it's also faster. Because yeah, like knowing that this Quicksilver Vitae molecule bonded in the right way will just get you like the exact same situation as not Jasper's extra Vitae thing. that's a very nice observation.
I'm curious if this has to do something before its 6th output to deal with the fact that waste is curving around. I think that extra single quicksilver in the waste molecule might be like 5D chess move to prevent it crashing into its final waste stick on the last couple of atoms.
So interestingly, we've still got 2 atoms to output, and we've already used all the area.
Yeah, because it's just curving back around, and it's at its maximal radius right now with that extra quicksilver in the output.
Yeah.
I do want to see the 6th output to see how close of a call it is. Like, I would imagine if that single quicksilver in the waste wasn't necessary, then Kali wouldn't have put it there.
Look how close that is.
Yeah, that would have crashed had it been closer.
Wow, that is close. Doesn't eat too many cycles though. Honestly, for that special casing. Oh wait.
Beautiful song.
Oh, interesting. So it was submitted and scored under the parser as 358, but it did actually use one area at the end here. This could be because I'm using an older version of Opus Magnum to run the mod.
Yeah, Jasper called out that one of the previous ones had a difference of one area as well.
Right, yeah. So, I think whenever you see something like that, you can assume that it's wrong on my end, because, again, the area detection had been patched since after this version.
The new one's better, we promise.
We trust us, the new one's better. You don't want overclocking. You think overlap's bad. Alright, moving on to 4th place though. At 1,163, we have Spiritual Shampoo. Reject humanity, become Jinyu. Alright, so I want to point out at the start here a very important trick. Alright.
Oh.
Boom.
I was waiting for this.
That's some sauce. That's so much better.
For anyone wondering, this was the secret sauce for cost cycles for this puzzle. This particular, you could just bond these 2 reagents right together, debond, rebond.
I came close to doing this because I did do that pivot on the corner to get it in position for the debonder, for the bonder. But my debonder wasn't aligned to do that.
And like we've seen...
Hey, wait a second.
Oh.
This waste chain looks familiar.
See, when I see this waste chain, I think of wire forming and unforming shadow cluster. But I didn't think about it for this puzzle.
I really like the shape, how like the shape of this waste chain gets like continually taken advantage of. Like there are just like heaps of close calls with this particular shape that you get away with. I don't you see it so much here in the projection phase.
And this is only 5, 7, 10 area? I didn't think mine would be bigger than this if it's using 2 inputs for every single projection.
Right, stuff like that, that's quite nice. And it just barely clips the other reagent here, so you get to keep the input suppression. It's a super clever, the shape's a super clever idea here.
So Mr. Puzzle's doing something very much like this as well, given how much of this he's like, that's familiar.
Very.
The thing is I'm trying to figure out how this is different because I'm faster, but this looks almost exactly what I've got.
You've got plot armor. You're Mr. Puzzle.
Fair.
Oh, no. Wait a minute. That's not how that's supposed to work. I'm supposed to be like the underdog that always got like 5th forever.
Being a commentator grants you a bit of plot armor, I reckon. Alright, and because of the similarities, we will move on. Just because it's a very similar solve. In third place, at 60G, 1,143 cycles, Mr. Puzzle. Oriented differently, but almost identical.
Yeah, that bond, debond, bond is amazing. That's just... And that only works for the half-access bonder, so I guess I took back what I thought about. Oh, perhaps the no-access bonder was the way to go, because this is the way to go.
But yeah, if it wasn't for this secret sauce, you might have been right. But because of that movement, it's so convenient, you can't ignore it.
Yeah, then it's just a question of, alright, so you have the shape, and you can put it on the projector, now what's the fastest way to get your projections done?
Right, and the thing is, like, most of the solves we've seen up to this point, the projection was the easy part. So, the secret sauce here for the molecule, like, for most solves, that was the hard part, and you've done it in 3 cycles. Like, yeah, definitely the secret sauce of the week.
I love these results streams, you just figure out what other people figured out.
How was it? Because I know, Biggie, for your tournament, you recorded, like, videos. So, like, it wasn't like you found out live. You kind of got to find out beforehand, but then you had to talk about it later through analysis. What was, like, I don't know. How is it different to these live streams?
I love the live stream format so much more now that I've seen it in practice and seen it working. The videos were honestly a little bit stressful because I held myself to like a Space Chem standard of, alright, you gotta spend your like 6 hours analyzing all the solutions before you're even allowed to go on the mic. And I didn't like that as much. It did let me say more things about some puzzles, but the trade-off being that I put it off, and so I was like 2 weeks late by the end of it. People kind of had forgotten about the puzzle by the time the video became available.
It's interesting though, because like, yeah, it's not like completely outdated by these live streams, but yeah, it's harder to pull off. But like,
what the live streams give is so much more consistently good. But yeah, I guess I'm also not speaking as someone who goes back and watches my own YouTube videos very much. So people who are watching them might weigh in and say it was worth it.
That's true, yeah. Because, like, at the end of the day, like, if you do spend 6 hours analyzing, like, the tournament puzzle and the solutions themselves, like strictly speaking, it is better analysis.
I'm curious if RPO is ever going to be able to finish his project of recording 2019's videos.
No, he did the same thing
I love it.
as Bambi. Alright, so, moving on. In second place, at 60G, 766 cycles.
Say fucking what?
Spec 98.
Spec 98. I can see him in chat. I'm like, okay, wait. Spec has ideas. Incredible low cycle count.
Don't worry, as we casually cut the cycles in about half.
Alright, so seeing the return of this just pivot in the moors, and you got the metal over the projector thing, but also with the secret source at the end.
Yeah, so this has the same problem mine did of like making the bond between the vitae is awkward in this orientation, but since you're doing it while holding the only atom you need to hold, it's like 7 cycles of awkward instead of 25 cycles of awkward every time.
Yeah, right, because there's no regrabs. So, like, it looks kind of jank, but you're not re-grabbing.
You're saving so much time on not shuffling it.
Right, there's just, like, so little shuffling at the end of the day.
The waist-it can just sit there.
Man, the assembly looks so good! Nice solve spec. I'm just still geeking out over the fact that it sits there not even close to done, and then like grab and it drops, and it's output.
And the last one, yeah, it just keeps the Quicksilver on for the time being. And you don't even need to suppress anything because the secret source is just so convenient. So you can just bring the Quicksilver back later for the next. Although, I think I did see some superfluous cycles there. If I replay that.
Have you studied what differentiates this from Rebix's solve?
Maybe.
Yeah, I was about to say, like, that's not something I think you just noticed.
No, Zorflax is just that good. He just casually spotted it live on stream.
Yeah, so see, it brings
pivot
it back. It doesn't need to be doing these extra pivots. It's just like, all it needs to do is deep on the Quicksilver. So, and yes, we will be moving on to first place with that segue at 60G, 749 cycles. Rebix.
Did this puzzle justice. Well done.
Fantastic. And loops. Well, I suppose the other.
Alright, so if we have a look here, so we get the secret sauce, and it just debunks, that's it.
Yeah, that single pivot was all you needed to get it in position. You didn't need to travel back over the output and then twist it the other way there. Did Spect find that and then not have it submitted? I see the wait ... in chat. Oh no, he just didn't spot it.
Nah, unfortunately it was just a miss. Truth be told, I didn't actually figure all that out beforehand, but I was looking for it. Because I knew they were very similar, but yeah.
Yeah, this way of connecting the waist chain, it's like, it makes what I did feel dumb, but I like it so much, so good job.
Yeah, this has like, I don't know, this whole idea just like, it looks like the kind of big brain tech that you'll see on like leaderboard stuff for GC. Kind of like, because I'm constantly reminded of Reactive Gold GC, and and this is more involved than that, but it's like, yeah, similar, really cool, optimal looking like idea. Now, if this was a tournament puzzle, you kind of wouldn't have been that satisfying, because it would have been like, how many people can find this method? Unless, of course, there really is like a super mega big brain batching idea. Outside of that, I'm struggling to imagine this method being beaten.
I would imagine if we did an analysis on how many times do you grab in the course of your solution, this method is like factor of 2 or 3 better than the next best.
Oh, sorry. So Rebix and Spect 98 kind of collaboratively figured out why Spect missed it. You might notice in Rebix's layout, it's the lead Moors is 2 pivots away, whereas if I reload Spect, did that work? Yes. It's only 1 pivot away, and that extra pivot ends up being a problem at a later point.
Oh, having it pivoted 1 more away gives you extra space in that spot. Or is it
right? Yeah. So here, Rebix can just like pivot it the other way, whereas Spect can't because it would have collided. So if I have to go back a single cycle for that.
Oh, right. Yeah, I get you. I get you.
So here, you want to make it easy. You want to pivot that Quicksilver clockwise, but here Spect has to pivot it counterclockwise.
Because if you just rotated it first, then you would lose the bond that prevents you losing the race chain completely.
And if we go back to Rebix's, yeah, you can see Rebix can just do the clockwise pivot. There we go. So at least
Who knew adding 1 pivot to make your actual projections start would save you a regrab? Not even a regrab, just a couple of extra rotations.
Yeah, you add an extra pivot there to like save a few pivots later, which is that is all that separated first from second, which is extremely subtle. If it wasn't for that, it probably would have been a dead tie for first. So yeah, that was cussed. That was cool to go through. I'm glad there wasn't too much like clumping at the top end, because there was a bit of it, but there wasn't too much of it, which is nice.
They were pretty well represented all the way down from 3,000 cycles to 700.
Yeah. Probably a decent example of a puzzle that works in the weekly context, but not a tournament context. Which is fairly interesting.
It might have worked in the tournament circa 2020. I think right now, though, there are too many people who would get pretty close to the same thing.
Yeah. Alright, I have some booted up. Starting at 21st place, we have Cuckoo 52. New solution 1.
This reads like a speed solve. Every arm is doing just what it needs to do.
Yeah, it's very much a speed solve, although I note this is an extremely mean nitpick, but Arm 3's got one too many track instructions.
That's a speed solve problem to make. Yeah, Cuckoo even admits in there. This was my 8-minute speed solve.
I suppose the title New Solution 1 also just gives it away that this is pretty much speed solve.
Was Cuckoo 52 also fast at the gun? I remember I didn't get it this week because I got sniped by the idea of doing something.
Oh yeah, no, sorry, this was fastest gun. Yeah, it beat you out by like 15 minutes.
I had the idea of like, yeah, just quickly do a sum solve. And then I was like, oh, but I could actually do a sum solve. So I took an extra 20 minutes on it.
Alright. Coming in 20th place, so we do have a top 20 this week, is Realliance at 470. Yeah, I forgot to show Realliance's solve on last week's stream. Make sure not to forget this week.
Oh, was it miscategorized as not for either of the metrics?
Yeah. I re-recorded it though,
Feels bad.
so it's in the video. Anyone watch the video back?
This one has quite a lot of time spent getting that lead back to the disposal glyph, which turns its tape loop from maybe 15 to maybe 20.
I like the, I don't know, aesthetically speaking, I like the placement of disposal. Also, no track. Yeah.
At some point in the week, Goodbye Galaxy posted their list of some principles, and one of them was like, never use pistons unless you have to. And one of the other rules was, break some of these rules sometimes.
You know, honestly, I don't think I don't think I've ever seen a sufficiently compelling reason to break the piston rule. I mean, the two exceptions were Panacea and that one speed solve puzzle. But Panacea, if I remember correctly, didn't allow tracks, which is the reason.
Yeah, it was a no tracks puzzle, so the piston was the only efficient way to handle that business.
And that one one speed solve puzzle, I'm convinced it can be improved.
Then improve it.
Yeah, I have to. The burden of proof is on me on that one. So I don't know. Maybe I'll improve it, but yeah.
I think Spec Solve was pretty darn good. Like, it beat what I could do, and I was trying. So maybe it's good.
Oh, maybe. I don't know. So maybe I have to eat my words, but otherwise, I don't think I've ever really seen a good reason to break the piston rule. I also have a rule of thumb of my own that wasn't on Goodbye Galaxy's list that I know a couple people have contention with, but I maintain it's a good rule, is the 8-arm rule. For some puzzles, you almost never want to go more than 8 arms. There are vanishingly few examples of puzzles that you need more than 8 arms for. This solution has exactly 8 arms. But yeah. Unless it's like refined bronze, but even worse than refined bronze, then you probably need more than 8 arms.
The number of arms almost certainly scales with the complexity of the puzzle, but the complexity of the puzzle is kind of maximized at some level.
Yeah.
You're not going to make something more complex, just more tedious.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay, at 19th place, at 412, we have Alienate Me.
This is one of the ones where area is going to maybe come into play.
200 costs, 90 cycles. That's not bad. It very much is the area count here.
If you could just save 120 area off of this, then you'd be like in the big leagues.
Also, another sum principle that I don't think was on Goodbye Galaxy's list, but one that I follow, and I think this is a personal preference, because I think plays like Goodbye Galaxy are more partial to it, but personally, I've never been a big fan of length 2 or 3 hex arms in sum solves, because I always argue they're too area inefficient.
The sum solve in an early week of a previous tournament, Panic won it with a length 2 hex arm. I just want to call that.
No, that's it. Like the length 2 hex arm thing, like there are very much exceptions to that rule. Like that's the one where break your own rule comes into play. Because yeah, length 2 hex arms can very easily be justified sometimes. But yeah, it's not very often that like you get a puzzle where you like the access points work out such that length 2 hex arms are a good idea, but yeah, worth keeping in mind there. Alright. With that, we shall move on though. Coming in at 18th place at 357 some, we have Moore's Technologies.
Oh wow, that's some TI tech with that length 2 hex arm in the middle.
Yeah. Fun fact, this was the this solution had the lowest instruction secondary out of any solve that got submitted to some, which is probably, yeah, that's how you can tell it was TI inspired.
Oh, I can see why arms 1 and 2 could be half T, yeah. This was an abandoned TI solve. Well, I think the effective wanding, where you're carrying the waist and you're moving the parts you care about with pivots and D-bonds, is beautiful.
Yeah, you can almost, like, you can't quite, but you can almost imagine Arm 4, like, being like this, requiring 4, and then, like, instead of having 4 rotations, you only need, like, 2 rotations, and that would let it be half T. And so Arm 2, you don't it only has to execute its instructions once. So that there's the TI tech that I think this was aiming for.
So, have all the solves we've seen so far used used all 4 inputs, I mean?
I believe so. I think all this, inputs so far, all the solves so far have used all the regions. So that wasn't necessarily the only play. There were, so I should talk about region choice. There were many different combinations of regions. Initially, one of our goals for this puzzle was to try and make the glyph of animismus viable, but to that end we completely failed. I don't think anyone actually has a scoring solve with animismus. People did play around with it during the week, but it just ended up being... the glyph itself was just too clunky. Yeah, I don't know. It's a difficult glyph to make viable in a context like this with region choice. Like, do you try and... yeah, I don't know, make the projection or purification phase uglier or something? I think it would have taken a lot of tinkering to make that choice meaningful, but the puzzle as it is ended up being quite nice anyway. So I think I wasn't too gutted to see it left out. Alright. With that, we will move on. Okay, coming in at 17th place at 325 some, we have Brother Mojo.
So we passed my 344, which was my speed solve that turned into a sum solve. But that one I know used only the cost inputs. It only used the lead for the metal, so it had to get a lot of spare vitae and throw it away.
So this one does not use all 4. Although, interestingly, I wonder if it could. Because, yeah, Arm 1 has to, like... yeah, I don't know. It's kind of weird. I mean, I guess there could be a reason this doesn't work, but I'm imagining a world where you get rid of the track and then just, like, have the regents like this. And Arm 1 just, like, instead of moving track, it just, like, or even you have the regents like that, I think. Yeah, like that, or even like that.
Careful, we're getting dangerously close to my solve on stream.
Oh.
The idea of a hex arm carrying everything and just put it all over the debonder.
It would, because it would also save a regrab. It would probably cost area, but you also save 10G. I don't know if it's viable or not. I'm not going to actually tinker with it, but I don't know. That's just kind of where my eyes were drawn when I saw this.
Ooh, Jamountain teasing that they have purification solve.
I will say this. I think people slept on the purification glyph a bit.
I think since our output has Quicksilver, we're going to place a Quicksilver input, and it's the same expense but less convenience, typically, to use purification. I could be wrong on that, though.
Yeah, I think because if Jason teased it, like, we will see we'll talk about purification later. Okay, so moving on, we drop below 300. At 16th place, at 298, we have Bambi.
That's a surprisingly quick drop. I was counting sub 300 as the big leagues. Yeah, okay, this is exactly the 6-arm I was looking at. Like, it's not a length 2 because that's too much area, so it's a length 1, but it grabs so many of the inputs.
Yeah, so this is a similar. I think this is very similar to what I think you guys, Team 42 did with these two length 1 hex arms being key.
Exactly, yeah.
This does it differently though, because the arm that grabs the regents does the bonding. Yours is going to do it differently. But yeah, arm 3 does this molecule reshaping and projection. But it's super quick because the hex arms just grab everything at once.
There was an iteration where the arm that did the inputs did the bonding, and then I found out, well, it's just better to make it do the projecting instead.
But yeah, I guess if we talk about ratios, have a look at this, 160G, 80 cycles. That's twice as many cost as cycles. Most solves that you would consider very good ended up having a lower ratio than that. It's usually you want the ratio between 1 and 2 for most puzzles.
Yeah, I just had a hard time getting anywhere with less than 160 gold of parts, which is one of my own blind spots, but it bites me in some solves.
Yeah, I think there'll be a few solves like this, where like it's fast but expensive. I don't think we'll be seeing too many solves that I would describe as too cheap. Also, I do enjoy Arm 4. I think it's literally just there to pivot. Yeah, it just keeps pivoting. And yeah, as the solution title mentions, it's like 6T'd just to get the product in one cycle quicker at the very end. Alright. Moving on, we have our only primary tie. At 298, but 43 instructions. So, actually doing the math real quick, 236 minus 197 is under 43. So unfortunately for Bambi, the 197 instructions actually mattered.
Well, I mean, the one sum mattered.
Oh, that's also true, the one sum mattered. I do like Arm 12 here being completely... Looking at the instruction tape, there's very, very little dead space in the instruction tape, which is always a good sign for some. Although I've always thought, like, because people talk about the instruction space needing to be full. It doesn't have to be full. I think this is, because I think this is on Goodbye Galaxy's list. You wanted little dead space in your instruction tray. That's a rule that I think you can break quite often. Definitely, there are times where, like, you'll look for an arm that does something like a super elegant D-bond movement thing, and that arm doesn't have much in its instruction tape. It has a lot of dead space, but it's there for, like, a very good reason, because it does a super elegant movement. So, yeah, definitely with your I don't really think about my instruction tape very often at all when I'm sum optimizing. Because for me, like, the movement and the order of, like, operations and how things you put together is kind of more important. Because I guess, because some's always kind of been like, it's one way to measure complexity in a puzzle. It's not the best way, it's not an objective measure of complexity, but it is one way to measure objectivity. It's one way to measure complexity. And, like, to that end, you're trying to find, like, simple stuff that, like, is very, like, you're trying to find the most convenient ways to do stuff possible. So sometimes that just necessitates dead space in your instruction tray. That's the thing. That's also the thing I've always thought Sum has had in common with TI. Because there's not that much overlap between Sum and TI, obviously, but they're kind of they're two different ways to approach, like, the question of how do you reduce complexity in a puzzle as much as possible.
That makes sense. Yeah, they're both somewhat more elegant than optimizing one thing to help.
Yeah, exactly. And they both have this sense of elegance, but in, like, completely different ways. But you can describe TI solutions as elegant, just like you can describe some solutions as elegant, but it's a completely different elegance. But it's both the same idea of, this makes a hard problem look really easy. And I think that's where the elegance lies. But anyway, moving on. Oh no! Oh, I forgot to submit. Alright, so, I guess I can talk about this really quickly. My solution came in at 296. It was not very competitive. I'll post a GIF in the weekly chat after the stream ends. I can't believe I forgot to submit, but yeah, for once my sum solve was not all that competitive. I just kind of got under 300 and then thought, yeah, that's pretty good, called it a day. I got a bit tunnel visioned with a particular track loop that I was trying to make work that was not quite working. And so I kind of banged my head against that instead of exploring better methods. There was also a sense of I didn't want to spend that much time on it because I've had less free time this year and I've been having to playtest more puzzles this year. And so I kind of just moved on after I hit 296. And then with, like, a day before we released the puzzle, I booted up my sum solve on a whim and went, oh crap, oh no, oh this isn't oh, I can improve this easily, oh no, oh what was I doing? And before I was able to really tinker with it properly, I ran out of time, and the sum solves started pouring in, and most of them were better. So yeah, that is the story of my non-scoring sum solve, so you can just imagine it coming in at 296. But moving on for real, in 14th place at 295, we have Fiesta Land.
I think the sum metric has usually been a little higher in the last bunch of puzzles we've ever thought about. So it being under 300 and stopping there is something I bet a lot of people did.
It probably would have been one of those things where, like, if I had, like, time and stuff, I would have, like, initially gotten under 300. Would have been initially I would have been happy, but then, like, I would have explored, like, better, different methods, and then be like, oh wait, I can keep dropping it. Oh, okay, all right. So, interesting method here, though. I do like this, like, kind of sequentially putting on the regions in such a way that they all debond on the one debonder, and you just have arm 3 handling all the wastage, as well as the projection here.
Is it possible arm 3 is a length 2 arm that's positioned up of the projector and the disposal is 1 tile closer?
So you mean like have it like here and then like the
Oh wait, it grabs the input. I didn't realize it grabbed the input.
Right. Yeah, grabs the input. The output is also in the way.
You might be able to put the silver earth above in that nook above the...
Yeah, what I was looking at would have had arm 3 above everything.
Oh. Also like this.
Yeah, but I don't know how it works if the input's no longer in range.
So I guess you have to pay attention to this. Oh, maybe. Maybe the output affects it. No. That's an idea. That all important area metric.
Area isn't unimportant, you just optimize it last.
I feel like area was surprisingly important for this one. More so than many other sum puzzles, area seems to matter. So I guess looking at the ratio, we can start there. We have 135, which is fairly cheap. 113, which is not too quick. 47 area, which is okay. Worth keeping in mind though, seeing every arm gets tracked though. Could be a thing preventing it from being cheaper, I guess. We'll see if there are other solutions though that come back to this idea. Moving on to 13th place at 294, we have random guess. Getting a multi-bonder, interestingly. Alright, so this
that makes this even more expensive.
So yeah, this would probably fit into the expensive but fast and small category that I think comes up in a good few solves. We've got a period 12 again, which means arm 2 on the debonder is perfectly busy, which is nice. Yeah, that multi, yeah, I guess with my, I don't know, because when I'm sum optimizing, like with my own solve, I'm always trying to like nitpick myself. So with that in mind, I apologize if I do sound a bit nitpicky when I'm analyzing some, but for me that's just like a natural part of the sum optimization process. So for example, with this solve, I'm looking at the multi-bonder and I'm going, that costs 30G. I do like here, because arm 3 you could totally just like output here, but it pivots back, and that pivot back saves 2 area at the cost of a cycle, and it improves your critality hex. So this is an important consideration. Probably should have been on Goodbye Galaxy's list, if I'm being honest. Alright. Yeah, one of the central questions with this puzzle was, do you grab the Vitae quintessence twice, or is it better to use the salt quintessence Quicksilver? Yeah, do you grab the I guess you can call it reactive Vitae twice, or do you grab this? What is it? Is this Is this reactive salt or stabilized Quicksilver?
Reagents.
I thought that was. That's what it is. That's what it says. I thought it was called Cinnabar Fragment.
Or is it a Cinnabar Fragment? Definitely sorely lacking a canon name for that particular region.
Stabilized reacted.
Sorry?
Stabilized reacted.
No, I guess I'll talk to... I guess Haxton and I should have come up with the name, because as puzzle creators, we get to pick the name. Oh, Haxton went with Cinnabar Fragment. Okay. Wait, is it... Haxton says there's a canon name for it. I didn't think there was a canon name for it. Oh, okay. Okay, we can continue that discussion, if need be, but I'll keep things going. So, dropping down by 1 yet again, we move to 293, with Mr. Puzzle.
Hey, I was really liking those small drops.
So how'd you go for some?
I think the first thing I settled upon was I want a hex arm grabbing those 3 reagents like that, and then throwing away the waste. And then the second piece I put together was having a single arm take care of the reactive decay. And then it came down to getting everything to fit.
I like all the wiggling that arm 3 does, because if it just is like, you kind of want it to just pivot twice, but that would just collide with arm 4. So you have to do all this wiggling, but it never costs any cycles. Well, it technically costs like 1 or 2 cycles, but you're not like losing out on your period. I must say, I really like arm 4 generally. I think it's like that's really, I don't know, that's a really slick regrab that it does. Though, yeah, I guess it has to be said, another example of an expensive yet fast solve. It comes in at 78 cycles. But it's also 170 cost. Pretty good area count at 45. But yeah, that does come in at over double the cycle count. So I guess moving forward, that is the question we have to ask. Is there a nice cheap way to do it that doesn't cost you too many cycles? Moving on to 11th place, we take another drop of 1. At 292 with Spiritual Shampoo. 180.58, so even more expensive and even faster. Although, ironically, even though it's one of our fastest solves, in fact, it might be the fastest sum solve that scores, ironically, you can speed it up by 16ing it and just, like... I think you just save a few cycles for free by 16ing it. So here... Oh, no, you can't, because... Sorry, you can't, because then this would collide with that solve. So you actually do have to wait. Never mind. Yeah, close but no dice. I do like this cycle where that Earth drops at the same time Arm 3 gets its swing in. Arm 5 also gets its swing in at the same time and nothing collides. That's a very nice cycle. Again, it is nice though to see a lack of dead space on the instruction tray. Arm 4 has a lot of dead space, but Arm 4 is also doing 3 things at once with every rotation, so like, it's allowed to have, when you're doing 3 things at once per movement, you're allowed to have a bit of dead space.
Yeah, it is cool to see this low of a period work.
Yeah, what's that, period 8? Yeah, that is impressively low. Bloody, the area count is nearly higher than the cycle count. Alright, moving on. Can we get it cheaper? We move on, it's another drop of 1. Moving on to 291, we have Not Jasper.
Wow, I had guessed that I was in the top 50%, just barely made it.
Oh yeah, top 10. I guess I should ask, who does everyone think made the top 3?
Let's go Maraconda.
So, while we answer that question, not great. How'd you go with Sum this week?
So Sum 3, because this was my 3rd attempt, and they all 3 had fairly different designs. This one was basically built around Arm 1, just thinking, oh, that looks like a pretty nice one. That and Arm 2. And then I just kind of tried to fit Arms 3 and 4 around the requirements to do that.
I do like the period 14 though. It seems like a nice period. It's very aesthetically pleasing having the 2 triangles pointing directly at the disposal. The geometry of Arm 2 is also very nice.
Yeah, like I said, like after I put together Arm 1, I was just sort of like playing around a little bit and I was like, Arm 2, I could have 2 debonders and put the disposal in the center because my second sum solve had the disposal way off to the side, and while it was useful, it felt kind of awkward in some ways. And so I was like, I wonder if I could have a central debond or a central disposal. And I tried it out, and this worked out fairly nicely. So,
it's kind of weird for some because in previous other metrics you talk about forward first or working backwards. For some, it's kind of weird because a lot of times you end up trying to build like middle out because you've got a cool movement or a cool idea and you just have to build the solve around that. So it's just kind of middle out, but it could also be forward first or backwards first that just happens to work out really well. You kind of have to do, I don't know, with some it's all over the place. You kind of have to try them all out, almost. I guess that's because, and I guess that's one of the reasons with Sum, because Sum's it's an easy metric to play around with. To build a solution for Sum is generally pretty easy. but the problem is, like, to get a good sum solution, you need to tinker a lot. So it's kind of different from most metrics, like in particular cost, when we were having a look at earlier, where it's hard to just make something at the min cost, and you just kind of have to focus on getting something that works. Whereas with some, the difficulty lies in the tinkering phase, where you are trying to explore every single subtlety and operation and movement and what order should everything be, and you're looking at everything at once when you're tinkering. So that's it's a cool metric because it's hard to make a really good sum solve, but it's not hard in the way we think most metrics are hard. It's funny how it's for that reason that it ended up being almost the metric of choice for speed solving. For that reason, because the difficulty does not lie in building a sum solve itself. I guess before we move on, if we do have to flag a potential point of improvement, it is once again the cost. Is there a way to bring it down?
So my previous solve was much lower in cost, but much higher in cycles, and that ended up at 311. And I was just like, okay, this is not working, and I played around a bit with the 3-arm solve that I had for that, and I just could not find a way to make it significantly better. And I was like, I think that a 4-arm solution will work out better, and it did.
So I guess that was the straw poll this week. Rebik posed the question: how many arms is the winning solve going to have? Looking at the results, we have 4 for 3 arms, 9 for 4 arms, and 1 for 5 arms.
Also, I would like to mention that this one had an excellent Cretelli placement, whereas my previous solve, there was just no good place to put the Cretelli.
That's very true. It adds to it what is an already aesthetically pleasing solve. Again, it's an important consideration. Cretelli placement should have made Goodbye Galaxy's list. Alright, moving on to 9th place. We have yet another drop of 1, with username Void coming in at 290. Alright, it's interesting. Same costs as not Jasper's, slower but less area. In fact, 35 is a very low area count, and we have purification. Although I must admit, I'm disappointed in wherever the Cretelli went. That was a good spot for it. I don't see Cretelli at all. There, wow, it's way over there.
I'm sorry, I completely forgot Cretelli.
That's alright.
I figured I'd explain my thought process a little.
Yeah, go for it.
Initially, I forget if I had purification or projection, but I started with something like this that was like absolutely atrocious at 383, and didn't use disposal. It made a massive waste chain, and so I beat that with animismus, and then eventually I realized I was using the Quicksilver salt pair. I'm throwing away the salt, so I realized I could swap that out for the Quicksilver Vitae pair and just take the Vitae off that. And then I realized I could switch over to disposal instead of, or switch over to the Moore's input, because I was only using animismus for Moore's at that point. And then I don't remember what the last step was, but oh yeah, so I got basically this with a lead waist chain. And then it took a little bit of fiddling to get the lead in the disposal. But I was really happy with this, because like Arm 1 and Arm 3 are both limiting the period, and Arm 2, 4, and 5 are both mostly used. But I'm curious where you think the inefficiencies are, because I really wasn't sure. I guess less arms would be the way to improve it, but...
Yeah, honestly, like, that's probably the only point, is the arm count itself. I was also going to talk about, because this is our first purification solve, and this is why I think purification was slept on a bit, because it means you only have to grab the reactive vitae once. You never need the fourth one. You just have to grab silver twice, which is... and you debond purify. As you can see, Arm 1 here is doing a quite nice job here. For a 14 cycle period, that's just a really nice instruction set. It's actually an identical instruction set to the one that Not Great built his sum solve around. We have 3 rotates, go back, 2 rotates, go back. And that just kind of makes the division of labor surprisingly nice, because of the fact that you only have to grab one of the other 2 reagents. Honestly, I like a lot about this. Arm 5 in particular is very cheeky. I do like that arm. It really is only the arm count that I can think of. Well, and just like in general, it's, yeah, like the cost. Even then, like, it's a good sum solve.
I guess the other thing as well is, I guess some people had faster algorithms, like we saw some 74s earlier, and even I think one in the 50s. This is close enough in cycles that I figured it would be fine, but I guess not. So, yeah.
Alright.
Yeah, I think the total of cycles and cost has to go down, but is that by going cheaper or faster? Both are costly without sacrificing the other. I know it was that much.
Alright, moving on. We take yet another drop of 1, down to 8th place. So for those counting, that is the, what is that? 2, 3... That's like the 7th consecutive drop of 1 if you include my non-scoring solve. Which is an amazing pile-up. Didn't get a single primary tie in that. Because the primary tie was at 298, and if one of Bambi or Witch Push brought it down to 297, that would have been like 9 consecutive drops of 1, which would have been very satisfying. But nevertheless, here is Moriconda's at 289.
When I predict Moriconda and they're here.
that's twice.
This looks a lot like the one that Genius sent me. At some earlier point in ours, I think it was never even submitted, but Genius had a 314 that was a bunch of arms talking to disposal. No hex arms.
Interesting 5 arms, and very little in the way of pivoting. There's only just like the pivots to make the single bonder activate 3 times, and the movement of the product to its glyph. Other than that, it's all like rotating kind of almost with the restriction metric vibe to it. Which I find is an interesting idea. Not a single hex arm as well. I must say, I do quite like the geometry of having arm 1 and 2 both swing right over the disposal and then like back to the disposal after it debonds, and you get a lot of, it lets you get a lot of usage out of this one debond. So I think Morikona mentioned in chat earlier, there was an unfortunate geometry thing that happened, and it's with Arm 1 here, because you can almost get away with placing the dirty silver here. But the problem is Arm 4 needs to swing back up with that silver, and that'll just collide into the region. And that, like, swing alone costs you like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hexes. What? What have I done? Oh, that's what I did. But I suppose if you were to ask me, because really the only point here of improvement would be reducing the arm count. If you ask me how do I like reduce the arm count here in a way that will improve my sum score, I guess when you look at the value of the operations themselves and how useful the arms themselves are, you got arm, like take arm 4, which gets you, you project the silver and then you pivot the gold, which is all right. But it's not like some of the hex arms that we've seen do 3 things at once. Same thing with Arm 3, it gets the Quicksilver onto projection and it bonds the Moors. And that eats up most of your instruction tape, but like, the value of those operations, like, that's 2 things the arms are doing. Like, perhaps there's a way to make that more multifunctional, perhaps there are other, like, ways to do it. Like, maybe if you move Arm 4 to a different spot such that it can also output, because you've got the cycles to do that, I think. Maybe. I think you do. Maybe Arm 2 doesn't have to worry about outputting, and maybe you can get Arm 2 to do something else. It's stuff like that, and it's not like those aren't concrete suggestions, so, like, it's not intended to be, like very helpful practical advice. There's just, like, a theoretical consideration, given, like, the other solves that are coming up. Which is the only reason I mention them, really. Just because of, like, we've got top solves coming up that, yeah. With that, though, we will move on. The 1 point drops end, unfortunately. We do drop down to 284. Coming in is Team J Mountain.
Oh, I've been interested to see this one because it was teased as another purification. Oh, that's sick. The pivot that Arm 4 does is so good.
Yeah, the Arm 4 pivot here is very slick. It does necessitate a second bonder, but like, for something that looks for something that's like that convenient, I don't blame it at all. Also, kind of amusing, it doesn't reset after the 6th product, because that costs instructions to reset. But yeah, another reason why purification was a surprisingly decent option. Arm 1 here handles debonding, purification, rebonding, and with that slick pivot, it also handles outputting. So it's doing 3, almost 4 things at once here. And because Arm 4 only needs to worry about this one reactive vitae, it can just be a single arm that takes a while to do its thing. I know, yeah, going with purification was creative. I do like it. I guess if I had to put my nitpicking hat on, I would be looking at arm 3. Because it is a bit of a... Because it does a couple pivots here. It doesn't do... There's nothing else that it does. There's not an easy way to suggest anything better for it, because it kind of has to do that. You need those pivots. So that's not like you should look at this to improve it, the suggestion at all, because like I really do not see like a way to like fix that at all. It's just like that's a sad that maybe other designs have the potential to avoid. Okay, moving down to 6th place, we drop to 277 some with Team 42.
That's a number I recognize. I wasn't sure how to feel about this one. I thought it was really good for the 12 period goal, and I don't think a slower period was something I was interested in trying.
That sounds like a very biggie thought process for a sum solution.
It's a little unfortunate that they have to sweep out the area I sweep when I grab the Vitae input, but it is limiting on the cycles if I try to make it a pivot.
Yeah, because the problem here is that the dead instructions, like they're here, they have to be dead instructions because it just kind of has to wait there. Because at the point of which it needs arm 3 to grab the Vitae. And so that forces a couple dead instructions where otherwise you might have been able to use those dead instructions to like start here and get arm 4 to do an extra pivot after rotating.
Yeah, it felt really clean and came at the end of a day of dropping it from 301 to 277.
So this is a very similar sorry. This is a very similar idea to Bambi's solve with the interplay between the two hex arms. The important point of difference is that in Bambi's solve, this arm 1 equivalent did the bonding first, whereas with Biggie's, or I should say Team 42's, it does the projection first, which lets arm 3 kind of grab everything nicely like this. So arm 3 can just do the one sweeping motion, and I can't remember what Bambi's cost is, but this is like a very nice, relatively cost-efficient way to get that cycle count down.
Oh, and the last save was getting area from 43 to 42, so it had to stop there.
Nice, very nice. It wouldn't be a Team 42 solve otherwise.
Exactly.
Oh, Communist Mountain. I don't think your comments are being censored. They don't look censored.
Yeah, it was apparently on Rebix's end. String LMAO was getting censored. It just so happened Communist Mountain had used it twice in the last 4 messages or whatever.
No laughing off your ass for
Yeah, I turned I mean, there was a week where auto mod was on and auto mod was being annoying because the word triplex was banned, so I turned it off.
I've come up with a PG-rated alternative.
Limbo.
Wait, what if I do it? That's showing up on my end. Huh.
Yeah, I think it's only Rebix who can tell us if their things are getting that as a filtered word now.
That's so weird. No, I'm not seeing anything being filtered out of chat. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I only know it because Rebix posted a picture of it in Weeklies in Discord.
No, okay, alright. I guess we can look at that later. Yeah, with Communist Mountain, I see there was a lot of input on your end about your sum solve. I haven't had Twitch chat open on my end because I'm operating on the one screen. So that's my bad for not catching a comment. Alright. With that, we will continue. We enter top 5, coming in at 274. We have Spect 98. 150, 78, 46. So kind of similar stats to Team 42's. It's 10G cheaper.
Where'd you save the gold? Three
What?
arms over the track.
Add 3 cycles and 4 area. So only 3 arms, but one of them's on a track instead.
Oh, the multi-purpose pivot. That's pretty sick. I'm impressed that 3 arms can go at 12 cycles. I did not find that, obviously, or I would have submitted this.
Yeah. I guess this is another thing. It's usually hex arms on track. They're like a naturally expensive thing. I think Spec 98 has quite a propensity for them. I'm not nearly as good as Spec is at finding useful ideas with these hex arm on tracks. Because you can get really powerful like operations with like having arm to grab a few things and translating them and doing a few rotates. So I guess that's more a comment on me not looking for stuff like this, because you do need, because this is the equivalent of 2 normal arms from cost. So they need to be doing powerful things if you want a hex arm on a track. But here arm 2 is very powerful. Also a cheeky way to let you, you get a movement here that would have otherwise collided with arm 2, but it's moving out of the way on track. There are also other contexts where arm 2, placing stuff here and moving back on the track to reset, it lets you re-grab stuff faster, which gives you faster periods, which here it's a near perfect period 12. So yeah, no, at period 12, this is a really nice find. An interesting... I do have to ask myself whether this would have... Oh, no, you can't do it like that. Okay, never mind. You make a wrong bond. Right, so I was thinking to save area, you pivot, beforehand to get more economic swings, but that does not work. I'm not even sure if it's saving much area at all, actually. This is very good. This is very well sum optimized. We have a very strong field of top solutions this week. Moving on, we take a drop all the way down to 267 with Goodbye Galaxy. Unfortunately, just missing top 4. Okay, note the cost on that. So I guess this is, this is so far back I can't even remember who had this idea of iteratively, was it, no, I can't quite remember, iteratively bonding the regions themselves onto the Lustrous syrup such that you only need 1 debonder, because a lot of the sum solves we've seen up to this point needed 2 debonders. And that wasn't necessarily a point of inefficiency, but I think it's better to say that here it is a point of efficiency, that it only needs 1 debonder.
Yeah, this is quick for it being so cheap.
Because yeah, minimum glyphs, 4 arms, none of them hex arms, only one of them's on a track, which is equivalent, but that's it. Interesting, arm 2 needs, because arm 2 needs the other region. The other region, because the Quicksilver here actually bonds to the Lustrous syrup, as opposed to here where it does not bond to the Lustrous syrup and is instead used for projection, which is sorted out quite nicely with arm 4's nice geometry.
Yeah, the access points on this are really funny. I think some is one tier above cost in terms of access points when you're really looking at a good cheap solve. And that's something Galaxy excels at.
Definitely, yeah. I'd say, like, I don't know, Goodbye Galaxy is very good at, like, some layouts that only need single arms. I know, yeah, he has a, propensity for, like, stuff that doesn't need multi-arms. Because, yeah, he, like, has a good grip on his access points and kind of period length.
Going through and seeing in the early days of some, like when Creamy and I held most of the journal records, but they were soft, and then Galaxy would come through and cut like 90 gold and only use like 20 cycles doing so.
Yeah. It always impressed me how quickly he could churn, like, he could make the, like, records like that for the big sum puzzles, because, yeah, I do remember I was taking, before Goodbye Galaxy, I came along, took a good few of them myself, but, like, I only ever took a couple of the big puzzles, because the big puzzles, I ended up, like, I needed to do, like, hours and hours of tinkering, and really, like, fine-tuning my sum solves for that. And he nearly swept the journal, I think it's chapter 5, the ones with the journal chapter with the gigantic products.
Yeah, the wakefulness potions and co.
And he basically swept those, and, like, I think I had, like, refined bronze, although that was taken by Goodbye Galaxy as well, and universal compound. And those solves took me, like, hours to play, to get working properly. And yeah, it just impressed me how Goodbye Galaxy was able to, like, by comparison, he could just churn them out. Whereas me, it was like such a taxing experience. I only ever did it for a few of the leaderboard puzzles. Yeah, I don't know. These, I don't know. I do like these some solutions. For this puzzle, interestingly, the sum solutions I've seen at this point, at least from us sum mains, have, like, nicely fit into our, like, sum style. Because, we didn't see my solution earlier, but it was, like, it was built around a track loop, and the track loop was honestly probably not the best idea, and I kind of tunnel visioned on it. But it was, like, something I tend to do a lot for some. And you see Spec 98 gets the multi-arm on the track idea going a lot, which is something he's very good at. Goodbye Galaxy with, like, pure single arm usage and clever access point, kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Well, I can't think of it, but yeah, clever usage of access points, so I kind of like that all the sum sorts of scene, like, fit into that kind of thing. Moving on though, I have not flashed it on the screen yet, good. In third place, coming in at 266 sum, we have Ebenov. Even cheaper, slower, but a tiny area count again. So, interestingly, this one kind of reminded me of Username Voids. It's not too reminiscent, because Username Void had a purification method. But this is like that, with the clever shuffling and the low area count, and everything kind of being nice and compact, and, like, the lack of dead space in the instruction tape. It's just like, yeah, what's really nice about this is that it only ever needs the one debonder. No track at all, only single arms, one bonder, one projector. And all the big swings happen right over the disposal glyph.
This is reminding me of one of Goodbye Galaxy's some principles. Well, the two that were right next to each other. One of them was hex arms are overpowered, and then the one right after it, hex arms are overrated. These cheapnesses where you're coming off of just not using hex arms are winning a lot of points.
I really like how everything is perfectly ordered, such that Arm 2, because you see Arm 2 at the beginning gets the Vitae, and Arm 4 moves the Vitae out of the way just in time. But because the Moors has to come next and Arm 4 still has to grab its gold, like it has a couple things to do. So Arm 2 uses those spare cycles to pivot around the reactive Vitae, such that next time it goes over the debonder, which is perfectly synced to the movement of the Moors atom, it's the other way around now. So Arm 1 can just dispose Vitae, Arm 3 can just bond and output. Like, that's super, super nice coordination. Yeah, it's a really good example of what I guess I've described in the past as division of labor, which is a concept I think about a lot in some because it relates to arm count. Because when you're using 3 arms or 4 arms or 5 arms, you do want the instruction tape to be full like this. You don't want dead space, and the reason that's not you don't want, and the reason you want to avoid dead space mainly is because you've got all of your arms kind of nicely coordinated, doing similar amounts of tasks, usually like 3 or 4, and they're all like equally as intensive and important and useful. And there's no like, there's nothing that looks janky or superfluous. That's not something like, and that's more of a design goal than like a thing that you look for. That's like something you hope for, you know, in the process of some optimizing. Also, Arm 4's pivoting here is quite cool. I still highlight that, because it moves here and then it pivots forth to the Moors, and then pivots back to the Quicksilver, which is a very nice movement. Also, if you're wondering why the Critelia is down here and not up here, it's because of hex usage, which I guess subjectively I don't quite agree with it, but I respect it. I think that's that's a Critelia placement that I think is a matter of taste. Definitely gonna let that one slide.
I would say if the hexes covered by area had equilibrium on it, that would be the perfect place to be. Because they're that little notch.
That's something I would support. I know a lot of people don't like using the equilibrium like that, but I support that idea. Yeah, and I guess the final point is because Arm 2's like perfectly synchronized order of instructions. The other point of efficiency is because, yeah, the way Arm 2 is, because Ebenov is able to get away with Arm 2's kind of flipping of the reactive Vitae, you don't need the 4th regent, right? And that's one less access point to worry about, and that's partly why it's so nice to not need the 4th regent. Because at the top end, we're getting to the point where like each access point matters. So like we're at the point where it's subtle enough that that's worth pointing out, which is which is pretty nuts. That's why I like sum so much. You can just stare at it. You stare at a good sum solve, and you just pick apart like the things that are being accomplished by certain movements and what that means for other aspects of the solve later on. I guess I remember I think Biggie, you described it a while ago. I think when it was panacea to poison some. When you're talking about like how some solves have to consider everything that happens at once, forwards and backwards and the middle.
Yeah, I think so.
Like the interconnectivity, I think here.
Yeah, the more I'm watching high level sum recently, now that people are so good at it, the more I'm feeling like it's an evolution of cost as a metric, because you have to think about the connectivity of all of the arms talking.
Yeah, it's almost a way of like, cause I've mentioned recently that like I kind of wish more cost puzzles needed 2 or more arms, because that's an interesting and kind of underexplored design space, but like you get hints of it at some, as you were mentioning. All right, I guess we should move on to our top 2. Coming in second place at 264 Rebix. Didn't quite get the
Really
clean
strong
sweep.
showing this week from Rabbits.
Alright, first point to mention, you might notice it super quickly. It's the secret sauce from Cost. Boom, boom.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
The secret sauce from Cost was so useful that it was actually also a really good idea for some, which actually poetically ties into Biggie's point about the overlap between Cost and Sum.
Yeah, it lets one arm with 2 glyphs finish the process once you have golden Moors. But it
Yeah,
does use area.
Yeah, you have arm 3 on disposal and that Moore's handoff. Arm 1 just does everything else. It just, as long as it gets that bonded gold Moors, and then arm 2 can secret source the end. 3 arms. But yeah, I guess from a Pareto perspective, 10G more expensive. We do see the return of the hex arm on a track, which again is, it's doing many things at once here, so it is justified. You're getting 2 arms worth of usage out of it. Faster, the area count does not balloon as much as you think it does, even though like looking at it visually, the solve has like, I don't know, what is that? That's a pretty lousy width stat. Oh, what's that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's actually not the width stat, but you get the idea. It's, from this dimension, it's kind of tall, but that doesn't actually increase the area count nearly as much as you think it does because of the lack of actual swing space, because Arm 1's operations all just like, they're all so compact, Arm 1's operations. Which is the other point of efficiency for the secret source, because like the actual secret source takes almost no swinging, so that's almost no hexes.
Yeah, this solve looks big, but this is smaller than mine. Mine
Right, yeah.
Really cramped.
Your solve
Yeah, when
looks
it has less, that's the thing.
So yeah, it's also kind of neat, because I guess to this point we've seen a lot of sum solve needing period 12 or 16, and the reason for that is that your disposal arm, at period 12, it has perfectly enough time to to dispose 3 atoms and reset. Period 16 lets you include a 4th operation on that arm, so you have like 3 arms, so 3 atoms get disposed, and then the 4th one's like the quicksilver that gets projected. And a question that is worth asking is like, because period 4 it seemed a little awkward. How do you get that disposal arm doing as much as possible out of that period 14? And here we can see it, yeah, the regent grabbing, moving across the disposal. And that extra rotation gets you your period 14. I don't think this is the first solve that accomplishes this. From memory, Team J Mountains solve also did this, but I didn't point it out at the time. But it is definitely worth pointing out as a way to make the period 14 nice to work with. But yeah, it is 130G because, as I said, the two debonders is not a point of inefficiency because, like, because the secret sauce, it just lets everything happen so quickly. I guess that's the main point this does so well, is that it's 130G, but it's very fast for 130G. Like we see a lot of people tried to do something lower cost, couldn't quite make it work because the cycle count kept ballooning to like 110 or 20 or something. And it's like, oh, okay, I guess I'll just have to make it more expensive. But yeah, there was a way to get it down to 130G. It just like required a lot of cleverness to keep the cycle count down. But that leaves one more solution. We do have one more solution to talk about. With an even lower cycle, with an even lower sum count, coming in at 261, we have our well-deserved winner, Caluresis.
Very familiar name, yep.
It's interesting, 10G cheaper, 9 cycles slower, but less area. So this is a return to the Goodbye Galaxy method of like iteratively bonding regions on to get it down to 1D bonder. Except
yeah, this is incredible. Arm1 never lets go.
Nope. At no point does it regrab. I just really like the coordination of this movement, how it like pivot, pivot, pivot. Doesn't need to wait, because all the arms are there just in time. And it's like,
I mean,
sorry, I'll let you go.
mathematically this deserves the win, but also just in terms of proving what can be done, this deserves the win. This is well thought out beyond what I could have imagined.
And it's really nice because you got stuff like Arm 3, because the 4th region is never used, and like you might look at Arm 3 and it's at first glance it's rather unimpressive that it does like pivot, pivot, translate. It's also translating with a plus sign first, which is definitely a point of inefficiency. I kid, but yeah, it doesn't appear important first. It's the thing that lets you use the same region twice, and you might ask yourself why that's important. But again, it comes down to area reduction. But it's also like, what's it called? It's another access point thing. It just lets you not have to deal with too many access points. And it's really, it's funny how unimpressive Arm 3 looks because it's all the work that Arm 1 and 2 does. And the method itself of iteratively bonding and debonding everything, it just kind of means that Arm 3 doesn't have to do that much. It just needs to be doing the right things, because Arm 1 is doing like 7 or 8 things. If we go through Arm 1's, it debonds here, it bonds, debonds, it's 3, projects 4, bonds 5, debonds 6, bonds 7, debond 8, outputs 9. It is accomplishing 9 tasks in what is that? 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. In an 18 cycle loop, it is accomplishing 9 tasks.
Part of the reason I thought, oh, hex arms are great is because I thought there were so many things to do in this puzzle. Multitasking using a hex arm sounded good. There are 3 arms, none of which are hex arms, but one of them is doing things every other cycle.
And because it's because it's so cheap, and because the period count is 18, and that's enough to let Arm 2 do 4 things, which is like the all-important projection part that none of the other arms were ever going to be able to do. But it's just like perfectly calibrated with the operations that Arm 1 and 3 are doing. If I had to give an award for Arm of the Week, it would definitely be Arm 1, unless you count costs, which is kind of cheating. So yeah, for those who are wondering whether it was 3 arms or 4 arms or perhaps 5 arms, it was 3 arms with 4 hexes of track, but you only need 1 of each flip. That ended up being best, but yeah. Amazingly well-deserved win. Congratulations on yet another win, Callie Euresis. Yeah, a win on some has, yeah, I mean, I don't know who isn't convinced that you're going to be scary if you decide to participate in this tournament, but I sure am. But yeah, definitely looking forward to seeing what you're going to come up with. Okay. It is time to organize the puzzle reveal for next week.
Come on, production.
Alright. This puzzle is brought to you by Grimmy, and it is stabilized gold. You are... Alright, I'm not going to pretend this is going to be any good, but you're probably looking at this going, this looks like a rather simple looking puzzle. What's the deal? Yeah. What are the metrics? They can't be nice. So we're going to be debuting a new metric here. You have to bear with me.
Tessellation throughput?
No, it's not tessellation throughput.
That'd be a terrible metric to...
The metric is lexicographic cycles.
Oh, I've definitely thought about this metric before.
Okay, so the idea of this metric is that it measures your cycle count to each output. So essentially think of it as like latency, but it's latency for like every drop, every product. So it's like min cycles to the first product, then it's min cycles to the next product, and so on and so forth through to eternity.
It can be computed as the sum of the timing of the cycle number on which each product drops.
Essentially, yes. The secondary for that will be area, which is counted at the 6th output. And our other metric for this puzzle, trackless rate with an instruction secondary. So it'll be rate, but for it to count, can't use track. Instructions will be the secondary. So yeah, I'm very curious to see what happens with this week. This is going to be interesting. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's kind of funny. Yeah, this puzzle. It's so. If it wasn't for those two metrics, this would be like a very simple, seemingly uninteresting puzzle. But yeah, very much looking forward to seeing what you all come up with. All right, I'll let you all.
Projection lex cycles is awkward. Let's go.
So just to make sure I understand the lexicographical cycles metric, it is latency, but then as a secondary, it's latency to second product, then tertiary, latency to third product, and then fourth is...
No. It's
No?
each added up so
It's
they each
adding
sit
up?
on the same... They're on the same state. You can save
Okay.
one cycle from the fifth output at the expense of one cycle on the sixth.
Okay.
And you'll
So,
break
so,
it.
so it's sum of first 6 latencies?
It's
Then-
through to infinity.
Yeah. Oh, all the way to infinity.
Yeah.
I want to see how the site calculates that.
How do you calculate that? Yeah.
That is a question for Panic.
Gotcha. So it's rate latency. Ratency.
Ratency, yeah. It's not cycles, but it's ratency. He came up with a pretty elegant, if I remember correctly, he came up with a pretty cool way to measure it on the site. I'm probably gonna botch details if I tell you what he came up with though, so I'll let him explain it in the weekly chat. Oh yeah, feel free to discuss stuff for a minute or two while I set up the the showcase.
The metric is whatever the site said you got.
Yeah, trust the website when you're submitting.
I would love one of the weekly weeks to be, the metric is programmed into the website. We won't tell you what it is. Submit solutions. If your number is lower, that's a better solve.
Yes, black box metric. Oh, that'd be so good. Stabilized water. It's black box metric.
Stabilized water. And we'll make the black box metric for like refined bronze. Good luck figuring out the metric. Okay. Back to Lustrous Syrup though. We do have our showcases, and we will be starting with what I'm going to make a potentially premature prediction and say this is going to be the coolest showcase. I'm happy to be wrong though. Is our min rate solve coming in?
Someone did it?
Yep,
Oh,
someone
wow.
did it. Fiesta Land did it. I gotta zoom way out for this one. So yeah, so we will be seeing min cycles later, but min rate was way more painful than min cycles, because for min cycles it's kind of nice, you just like output once every 2. But for min rate, you can like just barely do better than once every 2.
Yeah, the excess, if you were building one every 2, is enough to make one additional output every 48 cycles. So it's 49 per 96.
Essentially, yeah.
The way I calculated it was 49 inputs to 48 outputs.
Yeah,
Or,
yeah, it's
no.
essentially, in terms of input to output, it's, 49 to 48. Output to input. Which is essentially 49 every 96 cycles, which the solution title is just that times 2, because I think that's just the period that it was programmed out to.
It does mean that odd one out looking pipeline on the right is pretty slow.
It's very
Pretty
slow.
fast. It takes 4 outputs for it to actually reach steady state. So yeah, that's the reason it's the period it is because there's 4 different outputs made by the automatic.
It's fairly amusing just how bloody long the odd one out pipeline takes to even like activate.
Oh yeah, because you're waiting on a purification from lead to gold.
Yeah, exactly.
Actually, it's from lead to silver, isn't it? Sometimes it's gold, sometimes it's silver.
Alright, there we go. Finally has a chance to loop. Yeah, alright, so actually I do have a write-up here from Fiesta Land about this solve. I'm gonna reboot this so it doesn't clog my computer. Alright, so when you're usually doing like, actually, I guess to talk more about this, I'm gonna move forward. And I'm gonna, if B's okay, use your min cycle solve as a bit of a prop, because this is what happens when you do.
Sure.
This is what happens when you do like. This is very close to min rate. So I guess if min rate's 49 every 48, this is 48 every 48, and it's 50 million times easier. You just you only need 6 of everything, and you just you have some earth and some lead as waste, and that's it. It just
so this could be looped. I didn't bother to loop it because there was a weird LCM of like 6 and 3 and 4. But it would cover the output every cycle, which means that you can't squeeze in any other outputs if you were to be able to create other things, like do a swap out, steal one of the outputs, cannibalize its Quicksilver, make an extra product from it. Like, that wouldn't work because I'm covering the output every single cycle, so there's never time to put it back in. Otherwise, this was possible to adapt into min rate.
But yeah, you can say it's very nearly min rate, but it's 1 every 2, and you are able to do better than that. So, to go back to the min rate solve, I will continue with the write-up. So, because all the Quicksilver is consumed by the rate 2 strategy, we promote the lead through purification only. That gives us 1 gold every 32. Extramores and Vitae are easy to come by with all the waste salt, so the main challenge is figuring out how to get the extra Quicksilver needed for construction. To do that, we need to not project some amount of silver in the simple Oracle through pipeline and purify it instead. That requires 2 rounds of inputs to get 2 silver, yielding 4 Quicksilver. One of those will be used with the purified silver, leaving 3 free. Hence the main period of 196. We get enough material per interrupt to make 3 products out of purified lead, and we get 1 lead gold every 64. Hence why it's 192 over 98 instead of just the 49 over 96. One last thing, just for like a number breakdown. The lower pipeline has a rate of 4, which is 192 cycles to 48. The upper has a rate of 4.17, which is 192 for 46. And the odd one out makes 4 products for a rate of 48. So taken together, that gets you the ideal 98 every 192. So yeah. It would have been rather sadistic of us to give you guys min rate for this puzzle. It is kind of interesting though, with min rates like this, I don't know, it's kind of, yeah, to make like annoying min rate puzzles, I've noticed one of the main ways to do it, and Biggie can attest to this, is to make like a really compelling naive min rate. The reason I bring Biggie into that is because I'm pretty sure that's what you did for
That's what Amalgamated Gold Ring was.
Yeah.
I didn't think many people had the like pure projection calculators in their back pockets. So I thought if people will see that there's a way to get it done in 8 without waste, then they'll stop there. And it'll have to be someone who's thinking harder to see that there's better. But I'd overlooked the fact that, oh, there's one way to get to 8 wasteless, but there's another way to get to 8 where you're throwing away lead. And a lot of people are seeing that one, so they're all going to think of, oh, I got to do something that's efficient.
But yeah, it's kind of interesting, yeah. So we haven't really explored, well, I guess last year we kind of did, but we haven't really, it's been a while since we've explored like a rate puzzle with like a truly ugly rate. And this would have been one such, but there've been quite a few rate puzzles. We've even got one next week, so yeah. Sum and cost were perfectly natural metrics here, and some has been quite underdone in this weekly period so far. So yeah. We will move on though. Up next is a solve by Alienate Me, Lost in Translation. I'm going to zoom back in.
Pivoting. Oh no, it's
Translation only. Trackless. Translation only.
I like this.
Yeah.
It's refreshing after seeing so many Cuckoo 52 push only or pull only. It's like, wait, the Pistons can do both.
Now, I guess you could optimize for cycles, translation, like piston only translation cycles. I guess I should describe it as trackless translations cycles. Who knows? Maybe next year we'll explore one of these Cuckoo 52 like metrics. I won't say no. It'll be a super amusing stream if we ever do it. This is nice though. Thank you for submitting this. Because you can't really do pivot, yeah, again, to do pivot only you need overlap because you need to either project or purify, and either one of those, yeah. It's really only, because most of your fancy Opus Magnum glyphs kind of kill the pivot only idea. It's really like duplication and multi-atom inputs and no, not even quintessence. It's really, it's really only like duplicating, and maybe you got a Van Berlo's wheel, but then you can't pivot the Van Berlo's wheel meaningfully. So yeah, you don't have, there's not really a lot of puzzles that you can get away with pivot only. So yeah, I guess instead of pivot only, we do have translate only. All right. Next up, we have Mr. Puzzle with the true min rate solve. Oh no?
Not necessarily. I don't want to think about overlap min throughput because that's always tricksy.
Oh, okay.
It's just overlap 1R, not overlap greater than 1.
This isn't overlap min rate.
Oh
It's
no.
Overlap 1R. I'm sure min rate for overlap is less than this, but I don't want to sit down.
How do you even output two products on the same cycle?
So if you have everything spawn into place, then the output can happen on the second, well, second step after movement, first half cycle, which means that any output that was made before that is consistent with 2 outputs in a cycle.
Oh god. I guess with like, if you can squeeze a projection in.
But you can't. The projection will never proc after debonding. It waits another half cycle. So you might not be able to do it with input Quicksilver. You need to have a backup Quicksilver next to the input, which then would be the limiting. This is ugly. I don't want to think about it.
I'm just like, how do you even promote the metal in your better than 1R? I don't even like. Conceptually, I'm not seeing it at all.
You use Quicksilver.
But it has to output. But you have to not move the metal, and it has to be over the output. But then you have to output another product on that exact same cycle, and the one that you're promoting.
Well, because gold won't promote. So if there is a Quicksilver there, and you just put a gold there, that Quicksilver will wait until the silver spawns after that gold outputs. It'll promote that silver to gold, and then that output will happen all without motion. So it can happen twice without motion.
Oh, okay. So in theory, you do you output the first one first, and then the other one spawns, and then it promotes, and all the bonding and debonding happens, and then it outputs.
I will not be trying this.
All right, yeah, that's more than understandable. So, naive Min, hey, if you're masochistic enough to beat this, I will show it on stream. Though I doubt anyone will even try that. So yeah, there you go. Okay, well I guess I'll let it run for a bit actually, because I didn't let it run for very long.
Yeah, it'd be cool to watch the extrusion at max rate.
You get lots of cool wanding here. I do like the wanding a lot.
I also love how the grab from arm 1 fails, even though you can look straight at an atom there. Oh,
yeah, like
it's getting output.
That's so funny. It's on grab. Alright. We do also have a couple of overlap cycles solves. This first one coming in by random guest. So the Truman cycles was 6. And you just like... So it's not 1R. It doesn't output forever, unfortunately. But it does do this. So I guess it has a rate of infinity. Max rate. Well done. Oh, guys, I have a better way to put it. Min throughput. There you go. We minimized the metric. We do have another overlap cycle solve. This one does... I'm not sure it out-Paretos the first one, but it does win on the cost area secondaries. Did I boot the right one in? Yeah, I did. This one's 10G cheaper and less area. But it is the exact same idea. Kind of amused it only does... Oh wait, no, I thought it did 4 rotates, it does 5 rotates. So yeah. Alright. Our next one comes from Mr. Puzzle. It is overlap area. Well, that's pretty cool, actually. not an overwhelming amount of glyphs. I do like how you get the disposal in perfectly. Still a fair amount of glyphs, but not like overwhelmingly so. Alright, and with that, our final showcase, which I'm curious to see how this one's going to work, because the metrics come up as 0, 0, 0. Oh, right, okay, no, so this doesn't actually solve, that's why. I thought there was the super glitch, or whatever, but no, this was Username Void. He was low on time this week and didn't quite get a min cost solved, but this is his attempt at min cost. Didn't quite see the secret sauce there, but it was kind of close. Interesting that the lustrous syrup is actually part of, like, attached to all this waste. I know this does output at least once, maybe twice if we're lucky. Lot of shuffling though. Okay, so as far as it goes, yeah, I think I think this could have worked. You just ran out of time to make it loop because that, yeah. Figuring out the other 5, you need a bit of extra molecule rejiggering to deal with your differently shaped waste ball of vitae. So yeah, doesn't quite work, but I'm pretty sure it was going to. Probably would not have been on the fast end though. But that just about wraps things up for the stream. We got a nice long 3-hour stream going. Nice. All right. That was really cool. Thank you for joining me. I'm glad to finally get a chance to commentate this some week for one of these weeklies.
Yeah, thanks for having us. I'm gonna hop off. I gotta do something, but thank you so much.
That's all right. I'll catch you guys next week.
See ya.